if we really want to do something differently, we will find a way to do it differently. We have to be willing to say, my convictions are worth living, okay? My convictions, the things that I'm feeling, they only are of value if I live them out. Hi guys, we are back out at the house. I just got through washing jars and it is so hot here. It's too hot to be inside, it's too hot to be outside, and I am just ready to sit down for a few. So I thought what I would do is maybe throw some more stones on the pond that I rippled the other day and see if I can't cause some more ripples. For the most part, the video was taken pretty well. I got a lot of great positive feedback to people that understood what I was saying. I had a little bit of negative, and less than I really expected. I really thought I'd get a lot more. But I guess what, I'm not sure why there should be negative feedback, except that everyone doesn't have the same opinion. You can't base my thoughts and feelings on your experiences. It has to be my experiences that my thoughts and feelings are based on, nor can I expect you to always agree with my thoughts and feelings, because you have your own experiences. And so that's what I did, was I shared with you my experiences. I also shared with you the fact that though I have never owned a farm, and I am not a farmer by society standards, that I come from a line of farmers. I do have memories and some insight to that the average person doesn't. And I have lived in farmland since 1997. That does give me an additional insight that many people don't have. And I'm not one that just, and most of you that know me know that I'm not one that just idly, things just don't idly pass by. I observe and I notice and I see and we research. And with our life change, when going organic back in 2011, then we became educated and realized what was going on. So with all that said, I'm making no apologies. I'm sorry. I'm going to phrase it. I'm sorry if people were confused or offended, but I'm not sorry for what I said, because what I said was true. And what I said was not said maliciously. It was said passionately, because I am passionate about this whole thing, because I see an ignorance in our society that people don't realize. It's kind of like, it's like accepting our government the way it is, because America originally was founded with some really definite principles. And so because of that, just to blindly say that our government is good, inherently good, would be deceiving ourselves, because our government is run by man, and man is inherently wicked, and therefore it is bound to turn over a period of time, and our government has. So I can't just say that our country itself and the founding principles are good, yes, but our government has a lot of problems. So then you can attach that to medicine, science. There are good things about science, but we can't say that all good things or science are good. There are good farmers, but we can't just assume that because farming is the backbone of America, that all farmers today have ethics or understanding. And this is going to lead me to the second stone I'm going to throw in the water. Let's talk about farming in the area of animals, the enclosed dairy, the chicken factories, and the pig factories, okay? There are tons of those things around this area down here. It was such a breath of air to go up north, and it's not there. I mean, it is so... We actually saw dairy cattle in an area that were like roaming the field. They were doing what the dairy animals were supposed to do. Down here, that's not the case. You don't see... My grandpa's time, he raised pigs and he had a dairy. The cows were out in the field, the pigs were in the sty. And that's exactly how it was supposed to be. And when I say sty, I meant that, it was obviously a fenced-in area, but they had room to move. They were not kept in confined areas. The chickens roamed. That is a type of husbandry. When it comes to animal husbandry, to animal farming, that we don't do in this nation anymore. But the practices that we do to the animals are inhumane. And if you're a Christian, it's totally wrong. I mean, you can't take a creation of God and confine it in that way and be okay with it. Now, I say that, and I want to make one thing clear. I understand that lots of times we do things and we don't realize that maybe what we're doing is wrong. I mean, that's we are ignorant to some of our actions. I mean, I am talking personally from personal experience. I am not excluding myself. So on that note, I can also say that it's our responsibility also to educate ourselves. We should not do something until we understand what the process of what we're doing is. And I think God made us as a creation to know certain things that maybe it takes some time for it to start to stir, but eventually we can point at something and say, you know what you're doing is harmful, what you're doing is wrong. And we have to keep our minds open. We can't, again, it goes back to defending something just because it has always been one way. We have to be willing to process stuff and look at it and to determine, is it still a good thing, or has it been turned, pardon the phrase, to the dark side for you Star Wars fans out there. But okay, so back to the animal farming. And I had a lot of points going through my head, so I actually jotted them down. So I have notes that I want to refer to. But one of the things that I've always thought about, and you got to stop and think, a lot of people don't think about the webbing, the interaction, or how things are intertwined together, okay? At one time, lobbyists were illegal in our government. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, lobbyists are legal. Now, why is that? Because lobbyists go and they seek out politicians that will push their agenda. Now, that's not always bad. But most of the time it's not good, because once the lobbyist starts to line the politicians, the politician is now indebted to the lobbyists when they start to line their pockets. And we're going to give a perfect example, and I'm not saying that the first George pockets was lined, but George Bush, the first president, pushed Monsanto, okay? And Monsanto is a massive demon in the farming industry with their chemicals and the genetically engineered seeds and all this stuff. It really, I mean, its effect upon God's creation is overwhelming. The pollution, if you guys have never watched it, you need to go watch, and you can get it for free on many sites, because the people that produce this want this out there. And it's an older movie, but it stands so true. And the thing is, what's scary, it's worse today than what the movie depicted years ago, and years ago it was frightening. But The World According to Monsanto, that was the thing that woke us up. That was a movie that RJ brought home. He gone to the library to get some documentaries, and he comes home and he says, "Hey guys, you want to watch this?" And we said, "Sure." And I kid you not, our world had not been rocked like that since God showed himself to us. I mean, it was totally an eye-opener. But okay, so I'm chasing rabbits here. But the animal industry, okay, is unethical, and you can find all types of movies. I will try to remember. I don't have internet out here, but when I get back to my sister's, I'll try to remember to look up or get some links down below for some movies that show you the industry practice. And I can't watch them again. My stomach turns, so it doesn't bother. I just can't do it. But I'll put them down there if you really want to wake up to see what's happening to the food in our country and the animals in our country. So back to lobbyists. I am going to bring this all together, okay? We have a social net called food stamps, and the creation of many social nets are good. The idea of them are good, but what happens is we get the lobbyist in there, we get the special interest groups in there, and it makes all this stuff go away. Okay, the reason why these things were created no longer are the core beneficial root of it, and then it becomes a tool. And we're going to look at food stamps for a minute. But in essence, it's to help the lower income individuals, especially the children. But what the politicians have done is they use it as a tool to offer it as a option, and to keep them in office, okay? It's like a vote. We give you food stamps, and if they know where their bread is buttered, they're going to keep voting for the same people because they want to make sure that their bread is on the table. But here's the thing. If the politicians really cared about feeding the people like they claim to do, they would teach people sustainability, okay? They would teach people how to be independent with their food. And it's as simple as growing a garden. And even like, think about World War II. They pushed rabbitry in the backyards and chickens. And that's not the case now because the lobbyists, the food industry, is so deep into the government. So if you can get a large portion of Americans on food stamps, think of the profit margin that you get, because every month the government gives food stamps to those people, and it's not the government money. It's the taxpayers' money. The taxpayers, and I'm not in any way saying that we shouldn't help, because I do believe that firmly. We should help each other, but not in this way. Okay, because it's not helping. It is keeping people bound and enslaved. It's a different form of enslavement. I know that's going to go over like a lead duck, but it is. And because when you are afraid to lose your provision, you are willing to do anything the person that gives it to you says to do. And think about how much freedom you would have if you grew your own food, if you knew how to do it when times were tough, when maybe all you had, and if you were blessed enough to have enough money to pay for the roof over your head, but you had nothing on your table, but you could still grow your own food, you knew how to preserve it so that in the winter months, that if you weren't in an area that you could grow it, that you still had it on your table to feed to your family. Ron used to say that, think about the power. What is the most powerful thing, the most that somebody can control? And that's food and water. Ron used to say that, money was the most powerful thing. If somebody can control your money, they can control you. But when we went organic, when we became educated on what was happening in our food industry, Ron quickly, said, you know what? It's not money, it's food and water. If they can control it, they definitely can control you. So here's my thing. If we, and I have no idea how to do it except to do it personally and to encourage others to do this, but if we could get the children of today, if we could get real home economics back in school to where gardenery was taught, small animal husbandry was taught, and preserving food was taught, and taught in a way that, not that it's a hobby and that it's a fun thing to do, but hey, you know what? This is freedom. And this empowers you to where if you want to go work, you have that option. Or if you want to stay home, you're helping to earn the income by feeding your family. A lot of people go to work to buy groceries and they can't afford to buy organics because they don't make enough. So then they buy subpar food. But they don't stop and think about there's another way around this. They have to go to work to pay the bills and buy the groceries. But if they were to know how to provide a majority of the food for themselves, then they would not be stuck in that cycle, and they would have more freedom to decide how much they worked and what kind of food they ate. All right, I was editing this video and I realized that I'd left out an important part in my perspective of the food stamps. First off, I want to make sure that everybody understands that I do believe thoroughly that there is time and places in many people's lives, even if they're not elderly or very young, that sometimes you just need help, okay? And that's what the program's there for. But it's not there to make people a lifer, okay? It's not there to keep people on it forever. It's supposed to be there as a hand up. It's one of those things. You give a man a fish, and he eats for a day. You teach him how to fish, and he'll eat for a lifetime. And while we've got people on food stamps, on food assistance that need it, we need to be teaching them other skills, just like I was just talking about, gardening, small animal husbandry that can be done almost anywhere. But also the other thing is people need to be educated in this day and age. If we really want to help, if the government really wants to help, and this is my point, is it doesn't really want to help. It does not want to fix the problem. It wants to manipulate and take advantage of the problem. But if we really wanted to help, we'd be educating people on how to cook, not buying processed foods. The stores would not be filled. The food stamp program would not be allowed for people to go in and buy soda pops and prepackaged foods. All these things not only are a waste of money, but they're addictive and they're not healthy. And I know you can eat the most healthy diet ever and you can still get sick, but that's not the point. The point is we need to help people to be independent and not dependent. And when you're used as a pawn in these programs, and most people don't even realize that they're being manipulated and they're being used. When I find out if somebody's using me and manipulating me, you know what? I'm done. I am done. And, I would imagine a lot of people would feel that way that are on food assistance, and if they already know that and feel that way, but feel like they have no hope, it's because they've never been taught that there are options. There are other possibilities. This really doesn't, this does go along with what I'm saying, but it doesn't. One of the things about farming today is, in corporate farming, is just that farms are run by big businesses. And it's not the independent family farmer anymore. But if the government really wanted to help people who need food assistance, they would train them. First, the government would have to learn how to do it themselves, but find teachers that actually knew what they were doing. But we would train in food, in growing, and in preparing, and in buying. The government would be dealing directly with the farmers, buying this product as a whole food, and then distributing it to the people who are in need of food. This would decrease the cost upon the taxpayer, and it would increase the cost for the farmer, and it would eventually free the person in need from having this need. Some of this stuff, I guess, is just no-brainers. If the government really wanted to fix something, the answers are so simple. But we'd have to change the mentality of what the government has put into America, which is, people walk into a grocery store and they have no idea if they were to have to make a loaf of bread or prepare a casserole or a cake. They would have no idea how to do that without the box. And that's exactly what the special interest groups, the lobbyists, and the food industry have wanted, is a dependency from the American population that creates the income. There is definitely a place for this type of program in any country. But the way it's used, it is used as such a weapon, and to create people to be lifers for the politicians' gain and the special interest group and the lobbyists' gain. And until America wakes up, until people wake up and say, you know what, I'm not going to be partaker in this, the problem will continue. But I believe that each person that wakes up and realizes that they have options, and maybe they have to use the assistance, they have no choice but to use the assistance, but while they're on it, they could learn skills that would free them from that. So that's the thing. And then we say, well, okay, that's great, wonderful, yep. But what about when you really can't afford to buy organic food? What do I do? I feel convicted about the animals and the way they're being raised. What do I do? Well, here's the other thing, okay? You have to be willing to sacrifice. If you're used to fried chicken and you can't afford to buy it 2 or 3 times a week, then you have to determine what can you do so that you aren't supporting an industry that is against your beliefs. You have to modify how you're eating. An example that we do, and I'm coming to you, I'm being real with you guys because I understand what it's like to worry about putting food on the table. Our pantry's been, just like Paul said, I know how to be a base and how to be a bound. We've had a full pantry and we've had an empty pantry. And, each meal that comes on the table, you're thanking God because you weren't sure how it was going to get there. I understand that feeding the family it's a real problem. But we don't have to perpetuate a situation or a system that is unethical and against God's creation. So an example, and I'm going to round this up there. I think they're getting ready to head home, or to my sister, so I can make supper, yay. Back to the fried chicken. Let's say you're used to chicken 3 times a week or even twice a week. And we know organic chicken is expensive if you buy it from the store. So let's say you can't raise your chicken You either don't have the space or you don't have the know-how, you're not there yet. What can you do to move forward? Something that we do, if I don't have any home canned broth, and if I don't, if we don't have any chicken, and I can't afford to get it at the store that night, I have oftentimes made what we call a mock chicken and dumpling, or a mock chicken soup. I will get chicken broth, organic chicken broth, and you can get that reasonably cheap. Now, we won't get into this right now, but there is problems within the organic industry because agribusiness is getting their fingers in it. Okay, so men is corrupt. Men are corrupt. We can be corrupted, and that's what's happening. That's why it's so important that if we can grow it, we should, or if we can source it locally, we should, versus getting it from the store. But again, I understand there's not always an option, so I'm just trying to encourage you, anyone in any way that doesn't think they can, there are ways around this. So, organic broth, and I cook my vegetables. I clean, add more extra vegetables to my stew, and I will cook them with a little bit of water, and I'll buy about $6 worth of broth, and so that's like 3 quarts, and I put an organic homemade dumpling in it, or I will make egg noodles, and then that's our soup. And that soup costs me, if I have to buy the vegetables for a family of 6, that soup costs me about $15. And it's filling and it's good. So, all right. So that's one, just an example. Another example is eat more beans. All right. Eat less meat. Instead of buying hamburger for hamburgers, the hamburger that's not organic, that you really probably don't want to eat anyways, buy a pound of organic hamburger. You can get it at Walmart for less than $7. All right. And some people say, "Ooh, $7." You know what? How often have you gone to McDonald's or something and spent $5 or $6 on a carry-out? You could get a pound of hamburger, and you could throw in a pound of beans and a thing of tomato juice, and you've got basically, add some spices in there, but you got a chili. So the point is if we really want to do something differently, we will find a way to do it differently. We have to be willing to say, my convictions are worth living. Okay, my convictions, the things that I'm feeling, they only are of value if I live them out. If I don't live out my convictions, if I'm just a talking head, then all that is hypocrisy, and nobody really is ever going to take what I say and have it mean something. And regardless, whether you're a Christian or not, if you are a homesteader, an oldsteader, or a farmer, these things have value to you. And so most of us that are in this understand the preciousness of life and the value of food. And so I think but I think a lot of people maybe don't understand what's really going on, even though they might feel like, there's something that they don't line up with, and they know this, they can't quite put it into words. All I can say is educate yourself. Educate yourself. And when we speak the truth, and if we speak it passionately, it doesn't mean that we're villainizing everybody. It means that there is certain practices that, yes, if they're villainous, then they're villainous. We need to bring awareness, okay? And sometimes passion drives us. Sometimes conviction and belief drives us to be passionate about something. And that's usually what changes the world. And that's in a positive way, not in a negative way. I have so much here on my notes, but you know what? I think this is good for now. Living our convictions, living the things we believe is not always easy. Sometimes it comes at great sacrifice. Most of the time it comes at great sacrifice, but it's okay to think outside of the box. And it's okay to live your convictions. Just do it with purpose. Don't do it vindictively. Don't do it, to show somebody down. Do it to say, hey, things need to change. We need to change, and we need to spread the word. So, and I needed to wash jars today. I'm at a plateau, or I'm at the the mountaintop there, guys. I'm on the downhill slope. I've just crossed the halfway mark for the jars in the cellar. So I'm kind of excited. And we are closing in and being able to, we wrote a list this morning of things we have to finish up here, and then we are headed home. So, but we've got to finish our list and the jars. We got to finish the jars. All right, I'm going to add a little clip here to, I recorded it yesterday. It really doesn't fit in just at the end here, but it's about, just want to share the buckets with you and our plans for the buckets. We're getting ready to restock our pantry, so maybe we can be an encouragement and we can share with you how we had a full pantry. A lot of people share with you they got a full pantry, but not very many share with you, you know what, I've been there. I've been on that mountaintop, but now I'm down in the valley because I don't have anything to fall back on. And that's a reality for a lot of us, that we can be in that valley and we need to push forward. So, all right, everyone. I guess I'm gonna go round up my guys. We got to go get showers, and then I still got to cook supper. So by the time we get to bed, it'll be late tonight. But really, y'all, I wasn't tearing up farmers that. I wasn't tearing up the American farmer. Was tearing up agribusiness. There is a difference, and you need to educate yourself if you don't know what the difference is. So, all right, we'll talk soon. God bless.
Please remember, like, subscribe, and share.
It feeds the St. Bernard. We have one, and he's huge and hungry. And
don't forget to ring the bell.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
I'm putting that on here. We have the door open in here, so the flies are crazy. But we're going to take the rest of our buckets with us. And you can see some of these have been packed since 2008. And we've got some 2012. And this was, fortunately, when we bought this wheat, it was chemical free. So it lines up with our organic in a emergency situation. I would not feed it to my family unless it was absolutely necessary. But I will, I would feed it to them in an emergency situation. And being in buckets, it's fine. This stuff will last forever. And we've also fed some. I think we ended up storing a ton of this, or half a ton. And we have fed some to the animals since we've gone organic. I figure we have got like 140 buckets between here and what's up north. And so we're going to be working on our pantry. Between our jars and our buckets, we're really going to be working on our pantry and getting it stocked up the way it should be. I got jars here, and I got jars here. I just got jars everywhere.